Hello, 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 hello. We welcome writer and director Kislay to our conversation to learn the story behind the story tonight. I'm sure all of you enjoyed watching Aise Hee, and there's just so much to think about in this particular film. I'm Ratee Apana. I'm the founder and director, executive director of the Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati. Welcome, everyone. And with me is the delightful director, Mr. Kislay. Hello, Kislay. Welcome.
Hi, Rati. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati. And I'm so glad that this might be late, but I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the film.
I think it was a very thought provoking film, and I'm sure you'll have many questions from them. So, to tell you a little bit about Mr. Kislay, this is his debut feature film, and what a journey he's had, and how beautiful was this film. Now, he wrote and edited a feature film, Sony, in 2018. He worked as assistant director in the film. He was also the chief editor of The Bizarre Murder of Mr. Tusker, another film in 2018. And then he wrote and directed the short film Hamare Ghar. This film, Aise Hee, has toured several festivals, notably the Busan International Film Festival. It's been to Geomami, it's been to the Mumbai Film Festival, the Dharamsala Film Festival, and we are so thrilled and so happy to share this film with you. It's such a gem. Now, the film follows the septuagenarian Mrs. Sharma, who recently loses her husband and then sets out to do things that she was earlier deprived of because of her status a as a wife. So, Kisley, we just watched this beautiful layered film where you see patriarchy filtering down the generations through your characters. You see the son, constantly demanding things from his mother, shouting at his mother, the younger brother, feeling responsible for the sister, snatching the phone, being violent that way. The family is now getting distraught at Mrs. Sharma's very quiet quest for her own independence. And then you tend to layer it with religion, where you have the old tailor and his daughter, and then once again you layer it with the conservative mindset that's around this film, the attitude towards beauty parlors, for example. And then it's all set in this beautiful city, Allahabad, which is also changing just as people um, around Mrs. Sharma notice, her change. And so I'm sure it was just fascinating to see how you wove all of that in. And is this really a mirror to our society? Because it gave me, and I'm sure it gave our viewers too, a very insightful view of the social circumstances that she lives in, and perhaps that all of us live in. Is this a mirror of society in a particular area, or is this indeed, our lives?
Yep, that's very true what you are saying, that sometimes when you are only depicting a particular area or only trying to understand a particular region, but increasingly, especially in the post-COVID times, one is seeing what's happening, and it,
Really?
it
Mm.
it reflects what's happening all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was my intention, that how when people have certain ambitions and then you constantly thwart it, constantly it is not being allowed to followed,
Mm-hmm.
and then with that you have a conservative family
Yeah.
which has here. So it's a mixture of the ambition to have a certain kind of life which is not being achieved, and
Mm-hmm.
combined with the particular characters dreams which has been thwarted, and now you see the results, and I think one is seeing it everywhere. And over there is a peculiar lady who has just started to do her own thing. I mean, one will imagine that, because she's old, she'll have the privilege of being getting away from it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the case. So then it's a real problem. And yeah, that was the thing. Is my voice clear because of there's some
Your voice is clear, but I think I hear some noise in the background. Is that a
conch?
picture? Yeah, a
It's a
con.
conch because it's the puja festival in India going on right now.
I see. And where are you based?
I'm based in New Delhi, in India.
So you're based
Yeah.
in New Delhi, and there's a festival going on, so we can all hear that, which adds, I think, it really adds to the interview. I'm glad. Um, so how did you find this character? Where did you find her? Because I think all the folks in the film are, I think, new faces, and I also admire the fact that they all had an equal role in the film. It was like each one had a significant contribution within that film as well. So that was very exciting to see. So I just want to ask you, lead with the first question. How did you find the character? And then after that, I'll ask you the next question.
So what happened was that there's a writer and playwright called Bertolt Brecht. Uh, so he had written one story called Unseemly Old Woman, which is set in Germany. This is just post World War II, and very different context, and it's a short story of about 2 pages, and about this child remembering, trying to discover her grandmother through the letters, and
Oh,
how
wow.
she has a different life.
Mm,
So, but when I had first read the story, it had felt very familiar to me because even if one looks around at one's grandmothers and things, there is something, always some odd thing which has been discussed, which has been like it's a sort of hilarious thing, like somebody started eating something, or
mm,
somebody started demanding a certain kind of ice cream.
yeah.
So with this old, and especially with old women, there is this association that they can suddenly be non-rational and they can demand something,
Mm,
which is like almost going senile kind of a thing, but it's
yeah.
just a joke in that sense. The other thing which happens is because once you get old and you have daughter-in-law and they start taking household responsibilities, so you have
Mm,
some free time. So often this free time is expected that it will be used in just upholding the traditions, following rituals, holding pujas and all those things in Hindu
mm,
society. So so but they do that. Well, apparently there is a different kind of authority, not from what the life they have led. What happens in the case of Ms. Sharma is she refuses that life. I mean, she could have been that lady who's with Colonel and going around and doing pujas or trying to establish something. Everyone expected her as the elder, but she
mm,
refuses the role of this elder, and she
mm,
starts doing her own thing. And that, in some sense, it's a very peculiar thing to Mrs. Sharma. But in small things, this is common with old women, that they, in a very small ways, they start doing something very random. So then I thought, okay, I will just, that quietness, I will mix it with a resolve. Because what happens often the case is, with the family pressure or with something, you just go back to it. So I thought, okay, I will just make her a quietly resolved woman who just continues to do small things without saying that, okay, I'm changing something, or without
mm,
acting as a rebel.
mm,
And I just mixed up these characteristics which I remember from childhood with different, old women, with
mm.
different the grandmothers, the stories everyone had heard. So yeah, so it was a combination of these things which made up the character. And I was very conscious, or thought that I should not just show the journey of Mrs. Sharma and
Mm,
not show other people, because then what happens is people
mm,
identify with Mrs. Sharma, but they think that the other people, they are just quote unquote villain, or they are,
right.
you other them, rather than understanding that they are also part of you.
Mhm,
You means
mhm.
audience. They're also, all of these shades are part of our personalities. So then I
Yeah.
thought it's important to also invest in their own journey and try to understand them rather than labeling them as this or that. So that was
Wow.
the intention, to also include them. And again, these are all characters who one lives by, who one has seen, one's relative, one's friends, and it's a combination of that.
Wow. Wow. So it was a very complex movie in that sense. It was extremely complex. And where did you locate Mrs. Sharma? How did you come across her? And like you said to me, you said there were some parts of this movie where you could reflect on your grandmother or some other elderly person that you know. Um, Tell us, what are some of those nuggets that you took as well?
So, for example, this thing of eating ice cream.
Uh,
I mean, not exactly my grandmother, but I have heard from my mother that her grandmother's friend, she
mm,
was suddenly became very fond of having those, because there was these ice
uh,
cream vendors which used to go across
right,
in many parts of North India, because it's very hot over there.
right.
So suddenly she became very fond of, the moment she'll hear the sound of the vendor, she'll go out, she'll demand other people. So
Mm,
almost it was an obsession with having those kind of things. The other thing is, again, the tailoring part is also comes from there. Like my grandmother, she used to make up dolls, like in her after 60 finally, because it was like something which she had followed in school, but only for 2 3 years, and then she
yeah.
left it. So she had this burning dream to go back to it. So then
Mm.
she will go to almost 5 kilometers across to try and learn this wooden doll making.
Oh, wow.
So these stories like these,
Yeah,
that what the kind of thing they gathered, like what kind of thing they stored for themselves. So they
yeah.
all had a very enriching life, which many a times people, only daughters, were aware about, but that too in a quiet way.
In a very quiet way, because yes, because you don't really talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I was surprised to know that, like, okay, there existed a person which was doesn't imagine, like, one is, one's only grandparent. That is the idea of image of a old person. But there existed so much of complexities and some certain small things. And that was also the idea that, often even in Hindi films we see old ladies as, a very
yeah,
caring, sweet kind of grandmothers, but
yeah.
not a person who's beyond that.
Exactly. And I think that happens a lot in our society, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
I hope that someday when I'm her age, I'd be able to keep doing the things that I love without resigning to my age or to my circumstances or even the opinions of society. But it's something that we see, and maybe it's a lot more heightened in India because you're looking at children inheriting property, and all of those issues come in, and you have the daughter-in-law staying with you, and so on. But I think it happens a little bit in the West also, with Mrs. Sharma, and her real name is Mohini Sharma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you find her?
Yeah, that was a real task, to be
Yeah.
honest, because we were searching for a person first who is willing to shoot in the summer of North Indian
Oh,
summer is extremely hot.
very
It's
hot.
above 45 degrees Celsius.
Mm.
So it's like extremely hot, and we had to shoot for a long time. So, and plus we were not. I mean, this is our first film, so we were not expecting any stars, quote unquote, stars to join us.
Mm.
So we started this journey, and we kept trying initially to make some younger actress look old. Like, we thought his 70s will be a little too much in that summer. So why
Yeah,
can't we ask someone who is very roughly in their mid 50s, and with makeup we can try.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we
it was
kept failing.
older.
We kept failing. It was just not there. It was not there in the skin,
Yeah.
and it was. And then we tried to just audition a lot of non-professional actors from Allahabad, trying to see. But again, after a point, they will get bored because they're not used to. It's so hot. So
Mm.
almost I was getting anxious, because it was just we are close to films. There's 30 days left, and
Right.
we don't have the main character. We have a lot of options, but not something which I can suddenly feel very confident.
Yeah.
And all of this is done by just, it's not professional casting directors, but 2 3 friends who have studied to it, and they said, okay, this looks exciting. I'll help you with this. So
Mm.
then one of the friend Dinkar, he somehow accidentally, like, he was looking through different auditions, and he came across this.
Ah,
So he left immediately for Bombay to meet Mohini ma'am.
yeah.
And the moment he met, he said, "You please take a look at it. But if you trust me, I'm very sure that she's the person."
Lovely.
And yeah, it was very good, Mohini. But very challenging thing was that Mohini ma'am comes from a very different region. So sometimes you don't like Hindi is spoken in many parts of India, but the dialect is very different. Like
Mm,
people speak very differently.
right.
So she had to really change a lot of her dialect, and it's a wonderful thing. Like even Indians, they feel like, or I showed a
Yeah,
lot of the film was screened for people in Allahabad, and almost all of them didn't feel that she doesn't belong to Allahabad.
really. Because the
So
Allahabadi Hindi is much more
yeah,
fluffy, much pure, yeah. And
you're
she's
correct.
from New Delhi. Is she from
No,
New Delhi or Bombay?
she's from Kashmir actually, and she lives in Bombay.
I
So,
see. Big
yeah,
difference.
so her Hindi had a lot of you will say Punjabi influences, but actually Kashmiri influences.
I see. I see.
So yeah, actually she did. She used to have this habit that the moment she will pronounce something different, and I will tell her, "Ki, ma'am, if possible," and I will be very soft with her, but she will be very hard on herself. She will slap her just to remind that I made a mistake. So,
That's
so it
lovely.
was it was it was a real pleasure working with her
Oh,
because
really? And
I,
you did a fabulous job with the direction. There's a question. I'm going to just read out some comments from the audience, and
yeah,
see if there's a question
yeah,
through what is been offered here. So
yeah,
people are saying outstanding direction, story, and acting. Thank you, Director Kislay. Loved your film.
mm,
Someone wanted to know if it was a true story or totally fictional, and you just explained how you got it.
mm,
Um, so here's someone saying it was so unique how
mm,
each character's happy days were interlaced in the film as a
mm,
series of old pictures, memories. They portrayed the different journeys of each character at the same time and how each was going through their own struggles in life. So that's another comment that you got.
mm,
And
mm,
they're also amazed that the actors got tuned into that the main actress got tuned into the new dialect in a
yeah,
short time for the role.
yeah.
Does she have some? Did she have some prior experience in acting?
Yeah. Actually, she's a pass out of a very famous film acting school in India. It's
Oh,
called National School of Drama, and
I
earlier on,
see.
she was there was this, I don't know if there's a very famous television show called Shanti.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so she played the grandmother. So that was her Hall of Fame. But after that, it seems like she took a break for around 10-15 years.
I
So
see.
after 15 years, suddenly even people who had seen her earlier, they're very
Yeah,
amazed. And a very different kind of, because TV acting demands a certain kind of uh, constantly showing a certain kind of emotionality, like
right.
throughout. That is the
Yeah,
style of acting. So you have
right.
to train in
Make
that.
character. Yeah.
Yeah. So now suddenly she had to really, like literally
Okay.
learn to withhold a lot of things. but
Yeah.
uh, but she was very happy, and she felt more young than than we were in some sense, because she's such a, I wish she was here, but she had some connection issues and she couldn't join us. But she's very jovial in that sense,
Is she?
constantly joking, making you laugh.
Oh,
And
wow.
sometimes I'll get afraid that that correct the scene is very serious, but she's laughing so much. And so how will she get into the mood? But that is the training of it. So,
That's
and yes,
lovely.
that's true about the photograph as well. That we had thought of. Initially, we had thought of only Mrs. Sharma and the son Vicky, the grandson Vicky's photograph, because
Yeah.
they go through very different journeys in their life. But
That
then
is
it
her real grandson, is it in real life too? I mean, her son,
no,
real son? No.
no. I mean, no one is related with family.
Okay.
Everyone is separate.
Was an
So
actor.
yeah. So yeah, it
Sure.
was a real. I mean, my editor suggested that putting those photographs, and we tried that, and we could found moment for every person. So it
Wow.
was really good.
Yeah, that was very clever. I thought it really you did a great job with that. Someone says, I kept thinking that I've seen her somewhere. So yes, Shanti, it was a super hit drama and we really liked her in those days. So obviously a lot of people have seen her. Whether you're intended to or not, what you've done is really made a social commentary. on on life in India. And one of our I guess one of our reviews in we have a little film society. He said this was so. The review was, it was so suffocating, to see this person having these aspirations and just needs, just ordinary needs, but yet dictated to, by everybody around her. In fact, she had really not changed. I mean, she was just doing what she wanted to do, but it was everybody around her that was shocked that she even expressed herself in such a demure, but her resolve was there throughout, even though she was very. So I was just thinking. Well, first of all, how easy was for you to get her to act in that role in the way that she did? Because obviously, coming from drama, things might have been very dramatic, right? How easy was it? And then, how did you, whether you like it or not, you have made a social commentary, with this movie. And what are you hoping for people to take away from this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Also, just to go back to what first thing you said, I think you're correct that it's like it's very small things she's trying to do, but people are dead against it. But you also see that people who are against it, they also had their small ambitions, but they were
Mm,
never fulfilled. Like the father, he just wants to have a secure job, and he's
mm,
struggling between having a job which is he can be fired anytime, and having
mm,
his young children, having aspirations of buying this and buying that, and he gets frustrated. He says
mm,
that I leave this family,
mm.
and then you see in the photographs, you see that, or the old photographs where he's dancing, he's playing.
Yeah,
So it's like a society where a lot of ambitions get completely trolled over. Then this is the kind of thing you get where everyone is trying to fight with someone else in
yeah,
a way, and
yes,
and and just trying to get some sort of money anyhow possible. So it's not just her, but everyone is somehow, I wanted to, because when I go back, on the one sense, when coming from that region, making this film, one is have a privilege of a certain kind, because India is very different, and these parts are the one of the uh, most backward parts in some sense, like
mm,
so then you see all around that, like generations of generations had their aspirations have not been achieved in some sense. So it is
yes,
a social commentary in some sense, because it's not unique to one individual, but it's common across different individuals. And there is a frustration, and combine that with a Hindu conservative family, and you get what we are seeing these days in the Indian society.
hmm,
What you are just commenting, the social commentary.
right. And so, do you hope to, do you hope your movie would actually make us look inwards at, at our own families and reflect on how we treat our elders and how we see elders, being treated? Is it your hope that your film can actually bring about some change?
I mean, it will be a difficult thing, but what I'm trying to see is that a lot of people start looking within, and I mean, the focus is on obviously on this woman, Mrs. Sharma, but
Mhm.
then the other Mrs. Sharma is also the sister-in-law. She's also Mrs. Sharma, and even the younger girl, Winnie, she will be a Mrs. Sharma.
Yeah.
So it's what you said on the first thing. It's like an intergenerational look
Hmm.
at the Indian family and the circumstances, and of course what is going on with the city. The name changes. I mean, my city, I'm this is my hometown, Allahabad,
It
and
is,
now
yeah.
it's called Prayagraj. So one looks with a certain tinge of sadness of what is happening. Like,
Yeah.
the has changed, city have changed, and in the idea of development, you know it's just the big multiplexes or the big malls which is there, but actually in terms of real things, it's not so much.
Right.
So,
So we
yeah,
really haven't changed as people. We really haven't changed. And could it also be partly because of the inheritance system that we have in India? People grow up and their parents grow to a certain age, and the next thing that people are thinking about inheriting this. this condo or inheriting this flat or inheriting this property, and and sort of marginalizing the elderly as a result of it.
Yes, but I'll add one more system, one more thing. For example, if he had a secure job, the father, maybe
Mhm.
he will not be so desperate. So, like for example, we don't show him, but his father receives a pension. Mr. Sharma, who expired, will get
Mhm.
a pension, which Mrs. Sharma will finally get. But
Yes.
he won't get a pension because his job is not of that nature.
Mhm.
So maybe if people, if there was a much more financial security, he will not be so clingy to money and inheritance and that pension money and trying to do with that. So
I
so
mean,
so
we
yeah.
would hope so, but it's um, a lot of people have money and they still want more.
Actually, funding, that is also the nature of money, that you
Yeah.
can never have enough, and you can always keep clinging to it. But yes, you are right. I mean, in the particular inheritance laws, the
Mhm.
joint family, everyone living together. So what happens is there's the West has a different problem of alienation and people being separate. In many Indian families, the problem is just the opposite, that there are so many people and you can't say clearly. Like a lot of people have asked me that why can't he confide her things in her wife, or why can't her wife just say certain things? But
Mm.
in a lot of these family situations, especially in India, you don't
Yeah.
say things. You don't. It's not like you discuss things openly and you say, okay, this is my problem and this is not. A lot of things are understood. A lot of things are implied, and a lot of things are suggested, and that is how you negotiate with people.
Correct.
But I hope that more. There is something very peculiar, of course, like to any film, but I hope it's also able to, like as you were saying, go above that. Because for
Yeah.
example, when I was first writing this draft, I think one of my sound designer, he said that, I mean, it's so mundane, like like it's just about very mundane things of her doing craft, like
Yeah.
she learning the embroidery, or she eating ice cream, or she just
Mhm.
going out. That why is it such a big deal? And I said exactly my question. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. It's not like she's a rebel and suddenly she's doing and going out, partying and this and that. It's just very small things. But and that is a question we should all ask for. But for example, even affluent person in living in Bombay or Delhi, may not have the same kind of problems. But you
Yeah.
should be able to see the societal pressure in that those small problems.
Absolutely. And I think aging is, as I grow older too, I mean, I notice it's these subtle shifts in social thinking, as to what an older person can do, cannot do, may be able to do, may not be able to do. And it's not just an Indian thing, that's there in the West as well.
Yeah,
Um, and it's fascinating to see that. You never think about it when you're younger, but as you grow older, you begin to understand.
yeah,
Oh, okay. And then you begin to reflect on, your own circumstances, and maybe, how you thought of the
mm,
elderly as you were growing up and so on.
mm,
So this film
mm,
really gave me a lot to think about, both about myself, as I grow older, and also about all of the older people that I've met over the years. And I'm sure it's different in each, I mean, I'm sure um, this differs from home to home. It's not the same in every
yeah,
home, and this is sort of a slice that you took out
yeah.
from Ahmedabad and presented to us, which really gave us a lot to think about. I really thank you for this wonderful story, and I'm just going to check before we sign off. I want to check to see if there are any more questions. So just bear with me while I do that. Um, I think there was a question here.
Mm.
Someone had a question about the movie as such, and it said the tailor was smashed by Vicky, but
Yeah.
I was just a little confused. Was that what happened, or or was it the boyfriend smashed by Vicky? Um, so
It was the Taylor, which
it,
was smashed by Vicky, and I don't know. Sometimes I get confused, but like for example, I hope it's clear that Taylor is a Muslim
yes,
person, and there
yes,
is this whole, tension against the Muslim, and him being a Muslim, and him having three wives, and uh,
right.
so
And it's
Muslims in general in India are castigated by saying that that they are. I mean, there's a unsaid thread being built against them. And if you see the new citizenship laws, it's all about
Mm.
making them second-class citizens. So yes, I mean the
So that
wiki
was
takes
the
that way.
intention then in planting this Muslim gentleman there. There was an intention on your behalf to sort of bring this to the forefront also, right? So people
Yeah,
would.
I mean just bring that into to the forefront that how I mean how what they face, but also not just I mean I mean there's a lot common between the Muslim males and the Hindu males. So also say that their nature, or how, for example, how he treats his niece in the film.
Yeah, yeah,
So not just bring only one side, the like Muslims are either shown as good Muslims or as being oppressed, but
yeah.
also show them in a context in a with complications. So
Right,
that was
right,
yeah, yeah. And
right.
that is why this very mundane thing of him being only treating embroidery, or Mrs. Sharma just learning embroidery, is looked upon in a way which is how can you do this? How can you sit? If he was a Hindu tailor, it wouldn't
Mm.
have been a big question. I mean, she's just learning embroidery. Maybe
Yeah.
she could have asked him to come to the home rather than she going out and being seen to be
Mm.
learning embroidery. But it attains a total different dimension because of him being Muslim.
Mm. Now, do you think that's pretty prevalent, or is it just in this particular family that this?
No, no, it's very. I mean, family is actually more progressive than what is there. I mean, I
Mm.
haven't shown the. I have broadly made the family, closer to many of the family I know, or
Okay.
my own family, where it's not so apparent.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, the family, especially the father, is very progressive. He doesn't say, he just feels angry once in a while, but he doesn't stop her mother. It's the
Yeah.
grandson who takes all the pressure because the father is not able to act, and he
Ah,
keeps these stories. That is why the grandson acts and not the father, who
not
just
the
keeps
part.
saying, who can maximally just shout and then just feel bad about it.
Right. And also his relationship with his mother is different,
Yeah,
so he
yeah,
can
yeah,
he can put. I mean,
totally.
he has that restraint. And I'm going to take one more question. I really like that. And we also saw Mrs. Sharma in a different light at times. She
Yeah,
was angry with the parlor girl and so on.
mm, mm,
There are questions coming in.
mm,
Mrs. Sharma seems quite progressive, but
mm,
when the parlor girl got a ride home from a guy, she seemed to be upset. She
mm,
asked when she will get a job so she could move out. This was a
mm,
little odd. What is the
mm.
rationale behind this?
Hmm. That's a very telling point. And I just took over here. I took the philosophy of the author, the playwright Bertolt Brecht, which is that that rather than the usual conventional cinema, what it does is it just keeps making you identify with certain people all the time. Like
Mm,
like a hero's journey, you identify with, you see it, you empathize with, and you don't empathize with, say, the antagonist journey, the so-called villains. And this
mm,
is the journey it takes. What I wanted to do was to make you
mm.
feel empathy for each of the characters and also feel distant from each of the characters, to try and look at them with contradictions. Like people like us, all of us, we are people with contradictions. Like it's not like when Mrs. Sharma is changing, she is letting go of her past life, letting go of her past biasness. She's
Exactly.
carrying it through. A
Yeah.
person doesn't change like in a full wholesome way. They change slowly and they change partially. So she still had those things, yeah. And
Yeah.
that is a point where she blurts it out. But the
Yeah.
relationship between Sugandhi, the parlor girl, and Mrs. Sharma is always of little contentions. Like
Yeah.
when she asks you, oh, what kind of customers, what
Yeah.
kind. So it's funny, like not just the society, but she's also carrying a part of the society, and she has biases about this girl who goes out in the night, who is on her own, who runs a beauty parlor, and even in a generally uh, in a middle class Hindu society, the parlor girl is looked upon, especially in small towns, with a certain some amount of suspicion
Is
that they
it?
do.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So it's a combination of everything, and that is why when she first sees condoms in her parlor, there's a small scene, and she just
Yeah.
she just don't want to see it because she likes this girl, but she
Yeah.
has problem with this other things, or she's talking to boys and this and that.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Sharma is also very conventional in that sense, and she tries hard because she has become a friend, and she's also making her aware of new things and taking her on
Yeah.
different journeys,
Yeah.
but she still can't control it. And plus, even at that point, even to Mrs. Sharma, it's like, she has got used to living alone. So even a
Right.
friend coming and staying there for a long time is
Yeah.
just, she wants her own space as well.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
mixture of that, where she, blood shits out that when are you leaving? I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was a point where I deliberately planned, in the sense of that you have seen this old lady throughout, as if you really want to be with her, but also understand her with complexity. It's not like she has changed
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
You did that so well. You did that so well. And I think many of us can actually relate to that in a big way. Someone else comments here. They said, well, you left the rendezvous with the boyfriend hanging. Was that deliberate? And that was a question. Then the other one was, director, you did a great job portraying complex life situations and personalities, and kudos to you. So,
yeah. I mean, yes, Vinny's story, I left a lot of parts hanging, in the sense you were made to imagine, like, what does she want exactly?
mm,
And I think, like with a lot of these young girls, the kind of peace they make with the family is they learn to lie from very early age on,
yeah,
and just they are waiting to college to start and almost leave. I mean, she's not at the age where her mother is or her grandmother is.
yeah.
So the way she negotiates with it is trying to lie and quietly do things which she wants to do.
Because
So
she's
so
unable to talk about these things. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes, like, some people still ask me that, why does she give in to her small brother? Like, when he suddenly starts asserting himself, why does she give in so easily? And my
Yeah.
thing was, even to her mind,
Yeah.
being out with the boyfriend in that infamous park is a wrong thing. Like,
You're right.
even to within herself, she's guilty,
Yeah. She's feeling
because
that. Right.
a young person especially, feels the convention of society that, okay, the bad girls go to the park and sit there for longer time,
Yeah.
especially in these sort of spaces. So she is also feeling guilty of that, and she has been caught. So that is why, and she can't complain about this to, what she knows,
Anyone.
what the reply of her mother or her father would be. So that is why she give in when her younger brother asserts
Mm,
himself. And
mm,
her thing is that, she just learns to lie and, just keep going on. So what will happen, uh, one often sees her going out, with out of the home, like when many of the scenes she's trying to go out or trying to escape the family with some
correct.
excuse of something and this and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought,
Yeah, that was very cleverly done. Very, very well written. I just love the screenplay of Aise Hee. Thank you, Mr. Kislay, for being with us. This was a lovely film, a film that I'll remember for a long time. Thank you, real genius. I really loved it, and hopefully, as the more people watch this, and I'm hoping you'll release it in India, I do think it's a film that folks need to watch, and there's so much to take away from this. Thank you, Mr. Kislay. I hope you release the film soon.
yes, I am hoping it too. And thank you so much. It was a real good, like, suddenly it's morning in India, but after the conversation I felt so much of thing, and it was lovely.
Energize.
Yes, energized.
Lovely, lovely. Thank
And
you.
good
Thank you.
audience as well. Thank you so much for watching the film.
Thank you to the audience as well. Thank you, audience, for being with us. Oh my gosh, there's one more question that's coming in. Uh, May I just ask that? It says,
Yes, yes.
and it says, you show broken pots and scattered plants. Was this your way of showing the people from the community? Was this your way of saying that the people from the community were showing their anger for Mrs. Sharma through vandalism? Was that what your intent was in that scene?
Yeah, I think that's a good question,
Yes.
and a lot of my friends, it's like a who done it kind of a mystery, which a lot of
Yeah.
friends I have also in India have asked that who did it, and my answer is deliberately I don't exactly show who did it to just think it, but if you there are
It's
multiple people who are in question, like, is it the
Mhm.
son or is it the grandson or
Mhm.
is it the neighbor? So
Mhm.
many people could have done it, but if you think about it, you will find that, okay, who actually did it? who does most of the action. Like other people restrain, but a character just does the action. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy that everyone is noticing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Kislay.
Ratee. Thank you so much.
Yes, stay safe.
Yes,
Thank
same
you,
to you.
audience. Thank you for being with us, and join us again for another film tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye bye.